If we separated the major components of blood in a test tube, we'd see that over half of it, about 55%, consists of a liquid called plasma. Most of this liquid is water. In addition, plasma contains food, hundreds of chemicals that the body needs, and some wastes. The other part of our test tube of blood contains several different types of blood cells and cell parts. Most are red blood cells. Red blood cells act like freighters. They pick up oxygen from the lungs and they carry it to cells throughout the body, where they unload this life-sustaining cargo. Here we see red blood cells with the help of a powerful electron microscope. In a single drop of blood, there are millions of these cells, which look a little like donuts with the centers filled in.
Blood contains other types of cells too. White blood cells help defend the body against disease-causing bacteria and other harmful microorganisms. Here we see a white blood cell destroying some bacteria by actually eating them before they can do harm. Blood also protects us in other ways. Have you ever wondered why you don't keep on bleeding after you've pricked your finger? Well, blood contains cell parts called platelets that help start the process of clotting when you cut yourself. Platelets cause the growth of a thread-like net. Red blood cells get caught in this net, stopping the bleeding.
Blood has too many roles to describe in detail here. But in order for blood to do its job, it must continually flow throughout the body. A pump is needed to push the blood through the circulatory system. The heart is this pump. The human heart is only about as big as your fist and weighs less than a pound. But despite its size, the heart is very powerful because it is almost all muscle. If you could look inside this muscle, you would see that the heart has 4 chambers, or hollow spaces. The 2 top chambers are called atria. Each atrium is connected to another chamber beneath it, called a ventricle. But while each atrium is connected to the ventricle below it, there is no connection between the right side of the heart and the left. In fact, there is a thick muscular wall that separates the 2 sides of the heart. It is almost as if there were 2 hearts instead of 1.
To see why the heart is divided like this and how blood gets from one side of the heart to the other, let's follow blood as it makes its trip through the body. We'll start our journey in the right atrium, which, from our vantage point, appears on the left. Veins from the body empty their blood here. This blood is high in carbon dioxide that has been picked up from cells throughout the body. In real life, this blood has a dull red color, but to make things clearer, we'll show it as blue. After blood collects in the right atrium, it flows through an open valve into the right ventricle. This valve then slams shut as the right ventricle contracts, preventing blood from flowing back to the atrium. When the ventricle contracts, it forces the blood into a large artery that forks, taking blood to both lungs. Within the lungs, the arteries branch into smaller and smaller arteries that lead to capillaries. In the lungs, the capillaries are close to many tiny balloon-like air sacs. Carbon dioxide flows into these air sacs through the capillary walls, and oxygen flows from the air sacs into the capillaries. This oxygen gives the blood a bright red color. This bright red oxygen-rich blood moves from the lungs back to the heart through a series of veins and empties into the left atrium.
This explains how blood gets from the right side of the heart to the left. But the journey's not complete. The left atrium releases this oxygen-rich blood through another one-way valve into the left ventricle. When the left ventricle contracts, it forces blood into the body's largest artery, called the aorta. The blood flows through the aorta to other arteries that go throughout the body. These branch into capillaries. Here, as we've seen before, oxygen and food pass from the blood into the cells. Carbon dioxide passes the other way from the cells to the blood. The blood, now poor in oxygen, returns by way of veins to the right atrium, where the cycle begins again.
So the heart is actually 2 pumps, not 1. The right pump takes